60 years ago, surfers in California were looking to ride the streets like they surf the waves. They came up with an idea to strap roller skate wheels on their surfboards, and the skateboard was born. Since then, skateboarding has evolved into a sport, a passion, and a lifestyle for people all over the world. In a backyard pool, a skater gauges the feel and response of these recycled skateboards. Recycled skateboards give new life to unrideable old boards. The boards on this rack would normally end up in a landfill. First, the designer heats up the old grip tape and peels it off. This reveals the board's original graphics. He grinds off the graphics, leaving bare wood. He applies epoxy on top of a colored veneer coating and stacks the boards on the table of a bottle jack press. He glues another board and places it on top of the first one. He repeats the stacking process with different colored boards. The stacking continues until the designer has about 20 boards on the table. He puts the bottle jacks in place and cranks them up. Each jack applies 10 tons of compression, pressing the boards together while the epoxy cures and the excess glue drips out. The designer makes a cross-cut in the stack with a bandsaw. Each new board he makes comes with a unique color design. A worker traces a cutting mark on the board and makes a rough cut along it with a jigsaw. He sands down the rough profile of the board using a table-mounted belt sander. Before the board goes to silk screening, he uses a custom template to drill holes for the assembly bolts. A designer pours water-based ink on top of a screen printing mesh. He takes a squeegee and pulls the ink through the membrane to print the company logo onto the board. He removes the silk screening frame, and the board continues on to the epoxy phase. A worker pours epoxy resin on top of a fiberglass cloth. He spreads out the epoxy with a squeegee in a slow, constant motion. This keeps air bubbles, runs, or drips from ruining the finish of the board. The cloth absorbs the resin. The worker cuts off the excess cloth with a razor blade and applies a finish coat of epoxy, completing the board's covering. A worker uses a router to smooth out the curve of a different board. He finishes the board profile with fine sanding paper. A worker sprinkles recycled crushed glass on the epoxy-covered board. This will provide grip for the board instead of grip tape. Before the resin hardens and cures, he presses the glass into the epoxy with a wheel. He sands the bottom of the board with a sanding block. He goes through 7 different grits of sandpaper. Then the board is washed and polished before starting the final assembly process. A worker assembles the wheels on a truck and bolts them on with hex nuts. He tightens the wheels with a wrench until he's reached the desired torque ratio and gives them a test spin. He inserts bolts through the board and places a urethane riser pad underneath the skate deck. Then he starts assembling the truck. He uses a screw gun to secure the wheel trucks in place. Each skateboard is equipped with polyurethane wheels mounted on metal trucks. These allow the rider to steer and control the board. Recycled skateboards are made from a wide variety of shapes, deck sizes, wheels, and trucks, suiting each rider's unique tastes and performance needs.